All right, today we're diving into a really fascinating constitutional showdown. It's a story all about a brand new power that was given directly to the people, a super high-stakes political move to change the country's future, and a Supreme Court decision that basically just hit the pause button on the whole thing. So let me just ask you this. What if you, yes you, could directly change your country's most fundamental law? I mean, no politicians, no representatives, just you and your fellow citizens making the call. Now, this isn't just some hypothetical question. It's the very heart of a powerful democratic idea that was about to be tested in a huge way. And that powerful idea is called the People's Initiative. It was written directly into the 1987 Philippine Constitution. You know, the thinking behind it was pretty radical for the time. Let's give citizens a way to propose amendments themselves, completely bypassing the usual political machine. It was designed to be democracy in its purest form.
So, you have to wonder, how did such a revolutionary power even get into the Constitution in the first place? Well, let's go back and see where it all began.
Innovative. That's literally the word the framers of the Constitution used, and they were right. It was a total game changer. Before 1987, only Congress or maybe a special convention could even think about proposing amendments. This was a massive shift, meant to put a serious tool for change right into the hands of the people. Or, well, so it seemed.
But here's the catch, and it's a big one. The provision was what lawyers call non-self-executory. Now, what that means is that the right existed on paper, sure, but you couldn't actually use it until Congress got around to passing a specific law that spelled out all the details and rules. So it was like a promise that was waiting for someone else to turn it on.
And, well, it didn't take long for the first major attempt to flip that switch to happen. This was a political push that would really test the boundaries of this new, and remember, still completely theoretical right.
Okay, so picture this. It's December 6th, 1996. A lawyer, Jesus Delphin, walks into the Commission on Elections, or COMELEC. He's there on behalf of a group called PIRMA, and their goal? It was incredibly bold and, yeah, super controversial. They wanted to use the People's Initiative to get rid of term limits for every single elected official in the country.
An idea like that was guaranteed to cause an explosion. And of course it did. Opposition popped up almost overnight, and that set the stage for a major constitutional battle that was destined to go all the way to the top, the Supreme Court. Leading the fight against this whole thing was Senator Miriam Defensor Santiago, along with a bunch of other groups. They filed their own petition to shut it down, and their argument was really simple but incredibly powerful. The system just isn't ready. They said, look, the right to a people's initiative might be in the Constitution, but Congress never actually passed the proper, detailed law needed to make it work.
And this is the perfect way to think about it. It really makes their point crystal clear. It's like the Constitution gifted everyone a brand new car. That's the People's Initiative. But you can't go anywhere. You can't even start it because Congress never handed over the keys, the all-important implementing law.
So, this all set up a massive legal showdown. And right at the heart of it was one specific law, Republic Act No. 6735. The entire case boiled down to one question. Was this law the key to the car that everyone was looking for?
And on this, you had two totally different stories. On one side, you had Delphine's camp, and they were arguing that, yes, Republic Act 6735 is the enabling law. It's there, it's on the books, good enough. But on the other side, Santiago's group was saying, no way. This law is critically flawed. It's completely inadequate for something as huge as changing the Constitution. And this table really gets to the core of Senator Santiago's argument. When the Supreme Court actually looked at the law, they saw this huge difference. For proposing regular old laws, the act was super detailed. It laid out what had to be in the petition, the step-by-step process, everything. But when it came to amending the Constitution, crickets. It was vague, there was no process, and it didn't even have its own dedicated section. It was a massive, glaring hole in the law.
So the arguments were in, the evidence was presented, and pretty much the whole country just waited. How was the Supreme Court going to decide this monumental case? Okay, ruling number one. The court sided with Senator Santiago. They flat out declared that Republic Act 6735 was, and I'm quoting here, incomplete, inadequate, or wanting in essential terms and conditions for amending the Constitution. Now, because of that first ruling, the second one was almost automatic. The court said that all the rules COMELEC had come up with were void. The logic was simple. If the main law from Congress wasn't good enough, then an agency like COMELEC had zero authority to just make up its own rules to fill in the giant gaps. And then came the final nail in the coffin. The petition to start the signature campaign to lift term limits was officially dismissed. The whole effort was stopped dead in its tracks by the highest court in the land.
So after all that drama, what was the long-term impact of this decision? Well, it basically put this really unique, really powerful form of democracy on an indefinite hold.
Think about this. To this very day, the number of times the Philippine Constitution has been successfully changed using a people's initiative is exactly 0. The power is still written in the Constitution, but it's effectively locked in a box.
And this is really summed up perfectly in this incredibly powerful line from the decision by Justice Davide. He wrote that the right would remain entombed, I mean, what a word, entombed in the Constitution until Congress finally gets around to passing a proper law to bring it back to life.
And that's where we are today. The Supreme Court made its decision loud and clear. The people have the car, but Congress is holding the keys. The power is still on pause, waiting for the legislature to act. Which leaves this one big question that's been hanging in the air since 1997. When will Congress finally provide the key, or will they?